This is the Town of Darien Sewer Commission regular meeting of Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, 4:30 p.m. via remote video conference only. We're calling the meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our December 1st meeting.
The only thing I found was page 5 of 7, where they talk about the Stanford WPCA invoice. That was a little, like, no one could understand that 2 years from now. So I would, in the second sentence, I would add the invoice was concise this year and easy to reconcile for the second sentence. And the nitrogen credits are higher than anticipated. I would add higher than anticipated. Other than that, I didn't see anything else.
And the minor typo in the first sentence.
I didn't catch that.
We're not, well, it'd be interesting to ship our waste to Stanford versus Stamford. But.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
If we're finding minimal ones.
Before we move on from that, Darren, are you comfortable with those changes? You got them? You're muted. You're muted. Yep.
Clarification, the misspelling of Stanford and the clarification that Reese just mentioned.
Yes. Yep. Okay, good. Bob, what do you got?
Right above that in the Seagate pump station upgrade status paragraph. Third line down, it says the bulk of the gate values. It's gate valves.
Yep.
Not huge. But then we need to go back to page 2 of 7.
Okay.
About my comment, where it said Mr. Hill commented that if it was a faucet leaking, it's been leaking since that's fine. But I remember the gist of my statement was the fact that a leaking faucet is obvious. I don't know exactly the wordsmith part of that. I guess we would say that Mr. Hill commented if it was a faucet leaking, it would have been obvious.
That sounds
and
good.
It has been leaking since approximately August of 2019.
Okay, so we add a clause to that one. I recall that conversation. I agree.
I agree.
Any other comments from commission members?
Yeah, all the way back on 6 of 7. This is again like Reese was talking about, cleaning things up or making it so that you would understand were someone to pick up the notes further along. Down at the bottom where it said Mr. Hill commented on the letter. We have to clarify what the letter was. I kind of did quotes and said letter to sewer system users and put that in quotations. Does that seem to be clear to everyone if we were to do that?
That's good for me.
Yep.
And then further up that page where it was talking about illegal connection, that really wasn't the topic. What I was just asking about was Corbin Drive, because we were getting that
catch basin connection.
Yes, I didn't. I just wanted the answer. I didn't know what the answer was.
What seemed like a drainage connection to the sewer. So maybe we read.
That's singular, so that could stand.
So we can say drainage connection instead of illegal connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was just because the report had stated that it spiked during rain events, so I didn't know why it was. They were gonna look into it, and I was just asking if they had. So
how about just area of excess infiltration
or inflow? Inflow.
That works fine too, and then put a hyphen and say Corbin Drive, because
it's on Corbin near Corbin Drive. Yeah.
Other than that, I'm good.
You clear, Darren?
We're going to change the title to area of excess infiltration or inflow near Corbin Drive.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Any further comments from commissioners?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Accept the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Peter was the first. Bob was the second. All those in favor, say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to say that's unanimous approval of the minutes. We're going to move on with the agenda, which I closed. Okay, let's move it over here. Item number 3 on the agenda is sewer user fee appeals, discussion and action. The first appeal on the agenda A is 192 Long Neck Point Road for Craig Henrik. Craig, is that you on the call?
This is me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So maybe just a brief summary of the nature of your appeal.
Yeah. So look at I'm not opposed to paying taxes to the town. I paid a fair bit on property taxes and so forth. Anyway, since I paid my sewer tax back in I think October, whenever it came through, and I don't know, it just kind of jumped out at me. Just looking at it relative to prior years. That it was like 3x what it had been in the last prior years. And I'm actually a single parent. Both my kids are off to college. And I kind of lined up, I went back and looked at all of my water bills from Aquarian over the last 3 years and just saw a spike in water usage. So it's not like your calculation was incorrect. And it was a head scratcher because, really no one's in the house. During these months. And so anyways, I paid the bill. I paid the tax bill. And I just said, look, there's something going on here. I called the town assessor and I talked to the water department. I guess they put me on the agenda. So look at it. It's small peanuts at the end of the day. I mean, look, it goes to our town. I just, obviously I don't want to pay more than I have to. But obviously there's something that was going awry. And I think, is it Penny in your office? She said, why don't you look at when you shut off your landscaping, which I did. I got that bill. And then I was just racking my head with her earlier today. She said, well, did you have a toilet leaking or a faucet leak? And I thought, master bath toilet was acting up, I think at the end of last year. And I know I had a faucet outside the back door where it was running from the basement. And I think it cracked and it was spilling out some water. Doing some construction now, so that's now behind me. But I mean, I can't pinpoint, but you look at January, everything up like 2x, 3x, and so
Penny is very good at giving us some of the background data. So I'm looking at 3A, page 6 of 6, and the thing that really stands out to me as a primary cause is that just so you know, we look at your water use records from November through March to calculate your sewer user fee, because we're trying to capture a period of time that is just domestic use and not irrigation use, because domestic use goes down into the sewer system and irrigation use, of course, does not. So when I look at your November, in that particular November to March period, you used an order of magnitude more water on your irrigation system than you do on your domestic uses at 1,800 cubic feet.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful about turning off your irrigation system, probably even early in October, just because that November bill might be covering some October period. Or what you might do is put a sub-meter on your irrigation system. And if you do that, the sewer department would be happy to come out and read it and less out your irrigation amount. That being said, if we averaged over the remaining 4 months, December to March, to annualize water usage, that's one option available, really the only option available, I think, to us tonight, which would be, that's 101 over 4 months. So over a year, that'd be 303, 100 cubic feet used at a rate of $6.55. Which would be a bill certainly more in line with past bills at $1,984.65. I think that's something we could act on tonight with the proviso that this is a one-year appeal. Yeah, and so
that's fine. That's fair, and let's call it a day, so I don't have to waste any more of you guys' time. So
yeah,
I'm good with that. And then I'll just make sure unless we got a situation where I got to water some landscape and I just try to shut down my irrigation system in the future.
Exactly.
So
Focus on that. That should avoid this problem in the future. I will say that your January, February, March water use is, you know, still high for only a couple of folks in the house, or one. So you may
And more
still talk
importantly,
to.
Not even one, actually, because I looked at my calendar this past year. I was gone from mid-January through mid-March. I mean, literally on the road, no one's in the house, so there's
So
probably something more.
you have a leaky toilet somewhere, or a something faucet. So I would call a plumber, tell them there's something leaking, ask them to find it and fix it.
Do you
That'll just
have a,
reduce your water bill and your sewer bill in the future.
Mr. Craig, do you have a pool?
I do, and we
Is it filled all winter? No.
they drain it down, you know, so it doesn't crack the tiles. They drain it down, but last season they did find a leak. I guess there's a thing at the bottom of the pool where it was, you know, I guess with the since I'm near the sound, I guess it's got to have some fluctuation. There was a leak and the water was draining out, but supposedly they fixed it. But I don't think the automatic refill thing it should have been shut off. I mean, I think that would freeze. So I don't think that's the issue.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Can I does anyone want to make a motion to grant the appeal to 1984-65?
I will make,
Why
Bob,
don't you do it? You do it so well.
I will make the motion to amend it, the bill to $1,900 and 1984.65.
got it.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
aye.
All right, that's 5-0. Appeal is granted. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
thank you, appreciate it.
Your commission, you know, don't be a stranger. All right. Second.
All right, thanks.
Yep,
Stay
okay.
safe, appreciate it.
Next item on the agenda, item 3B, 874 Boston Post Road, Gray Court LLC, for William Schaefer, who is representing. Yes, Darren.
Understanding through Penny that Mrs. Schaefer called. The commission last month tabled this item, and Mrs. Schaefer apparently agreed that she didn't have anything new to report or show the commission. And I see she's not on the call here tonight, so I think that means that there's still nothing new to report.
You know, I'm wondering, because it took me a couple of meetings to catch on that this is, I think, the building where Heights Pizza moved to.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if the increased use may just be from a busier business using more water. I'm wondering. But anyway, no more information. We can continue the meeting. Item 4, Fletcher Development, Locust Hill Road. Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
I hear you, Ed. Yes, sir.
Okay, so, sorry to do that to you. So with her not providing any more information, us holding it over, do we go ahead now and expect her to pay the bill in its entirety, or are we actually holding this over for another month?
Well,
Let's just hold it over one more month. No big deal.
Darren?
Right.
Just so everybody knows, I'm pretty sure she paid the $2,000 for half of her bill or something like that.
Before.
Last meeting, she was told to go ahead and pay $2,000.
Yes, I believe that's a good faith payment, so I would make a motion that we would hold it over for one more month.
Yeah, but let's let her know that if we have no further information, we're, you know, likely to decide the appeal up or down based on the information we have at the next meeting.
Agreed.
So either she gets the additional information or we make a decision on what we have.
Sounds good.
Okay. Item 4, Fletcher Development, Locust Hill Road, sewer easement, discussion and action.
Commission asked staff to get the easement reviewed by town council. It was the document that you have in your package has been reviewed and approved by town council. Our council has spoken directly with their council, and we're looking for a motion to have the chairman enter into this instrument.
So everybody's happy with it. And do I have any questions or comments from the commissioner?
No, I'll make that motion if we need one.
Yep, okay. Reese moves to approve the amendment to amended and restated sanitary sewer agreement. That's a mouthful.
I read it and I'll second.
As presented. Was that a
Right.
second?
Yes.
All right, second, Peter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye.
That was 5-0. Easement's approved. Moving on to item 5, request for sewer connection. Brian O. Flanagan, 1 Andrews Drive.
Mr. Flanagan is with us.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, sir.
Oop.
Who's going to do the summary, Darren or Mr. Flanagan?
Want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Flanagan lives on the corner of Kings Highway South and Andrews Drive on the west corner. There is a sewer across the street on a diagonal across from this intersection. It is the sewer that was installed by Westmere and the town took ownership of. It is located directly in front of the O'Brien House, which the commission has looked at before. The commission in the past has granted approval for Mrs. O'Brien to connect to the sewer for a fee of $1,000 in addition to all other fees. And that was, the commission decided that based upon the fact that they took ownership of the system, paid for the system in part, and felt that that was a fair approach.
Yeah, this, if I recall, this extension was one connection to a previous sewer extension, and the developer, the portional share was something like 23,000, 20 some odd thousand. And
Yeah.
I know there's a longer story here, and I don't want to go into the longer story again.
It's your math. I'll just quickly your math. We looked at it like we were willing to pay Westmere $24,000 to connect to Brushy Hill Sewer, and there was about 24 people, which works out to be about $1,000 a person. And that's where you hung your hat. That was your math.
And it just so happens we're going to be looking at text tonight to establish more consistent connection fees, and the connection fee for a single family residence that we've been considering for 6 or 12 months is $1,000.
So based on that, I'd be willing to make a motion that out of consistency and past practices plus going forward, that we accept $1,000 as the fee to hook up and we move on if it's feasible.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Can I just ask a question first?
Yeah, I was going to get there after the second. So I saw Peter's second.
Oh, okay.
So now we can go into discussion, and maybe first I'm going to ask Mr. O'Flanagan if he has any questions or further comments based on what he's heard so far.
Nothing on what I've heard so far. I do have some follow-up questions as you continue with your discussion.
That's good. Go ahead, Bob.
I was wondering if the plan was to connect to the gravity portion of the sewer and not connect to the force mains section.
That is correct. We will not allow anyone to connect to any force main. A low pressure sewer is different. It's under pressure, but it's not a force main.
Okay.
Force main in front of his house comes from Westmere Pump Station on Andrews Drive and discharges to gravity in Old Kings Highway South. We would make Mr. O'Flanagan's plumber connect to the gravity portion.
Oh, that's what I was hoping you'd say. Okay, that's the only question. That was the only question I had.
Any other questions or discussion? I hear nothing from the commissioners. Mr. O'Flanagan, do you have further questions before we
The only further questions, and maybe this is for later perhaps, but I was inquiring where I would connect. Somebody had mentioned that there was a manhole across the street. I couldn't find the manhole from walking around, but that was what I was just wondering with the feasibility of connecting. Maybe might depend a little bit on where I would have to go to connect, and the how much digging or road work would be required.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
If you came up Andrews Drive and went straight across the street, that's how the force main goes. And you're correct. It discharges to a gravity manhole across the street, and there would be a lot of digging for you because you have to cross the entirety of Old Kings Highway South, and to make it a little bit worse, it's kind of diagonal, so the distance is going to be a little bit long.
Okay. The good thing is at least.
And it's a very rocky topography in that area.
Is that perhaps, is that maybe that Mrs. O'Brien hasn't connected? Is there some maybe issues from the cost from her perspective? But for her, she wouldn't have to cross the street, so I guess it wouldn't be as much of a.
I'm going to share my
She didn't have to
screen.
cross the street. It was already in the side of the street for her. She lucked out.
So, well, okay, so let me zoom down here. Everybody looking at this?
Yes,
Yes.
is perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you where the manhole is. It's barely visible. So, okay, there's Andrew's Drive on the left. So there's your lot over there in the distance. Street view is a wonderful thing because I can actually see the saw cut across the road that the force main took right in here, and right in the shoulder, I see the edge of a manhole covered by some landscape debris.
Okay.
So
Okay,
that's,
perfect. That explains why I couldn't find it walking
Yeah.
down the road. And so I would, if I were to connect, that's where I'd need to go. I would need to dig up to the manhole.
that's correct. That's the only way to do it.
Okay.
But you still is a way to go in that you got to get a drawing together, right?
Yeah, your plumber, you have to get a sewer permit from the sewer department to conduct this work, and that sewer permit needs to be based on technical drawings provided by your plumber or an engineer, indicating how that connection is going to be made and where it's going to go and all the details associated therewith. And you can work that out with our sewer department staff, most likely Anthony Tacone and Darren. Yes, Darren.
Everything you said is correct, and in addition to that, he'll be cutting a public road, so he'll have to pull a street opening permit. There are many plumbers who are qualified to pull both a street opening permit and have a plumbing permit. There are also a number of plumbers who work with people who are qualified, so it can be either situation. A plumber and a digger, or a plumber that also digs. And if you just come into our office, talk to Anthony Tacone, he'll get everything straightened out for you and give you a nice roadmap on what the requirements are.
Okay, great.
Any further questions or discussion?
Nope, that's great. Really appreciate it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the sewer connection for a connection fee of $1,000. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0, motion approved. Thank you, Mr. Flanagan.
Good night.
Thank you for visiting the sewer commission.
Pleasure.
All right, anything new to report on item 6, Darren?
Item 6. Commission asked that we return with plans from the developer. We spoke to the engineer for 88 Nearwater, and we were told that they are still waiting for invert elevations from the other.
They've got them. All right, so tabling for this month?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Craig, you need a motion for that? I'll make a motion. We table item 6, 88 Nearwater Lane.
Okay. A second is Peter. All those in favor? All right, that's
Aye.
4-0 with me abstaining.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. All right, item number 7, 26 East Lane sewer connection.
Okay, 26. We looked and we didn't find that this had been approved at a previous meeting.
I don't
A
recall.
little bit of background for you, even if you heard it, it might be stale for you. This property is at the end of East Lane, and it abuts the highway, and it was a nursery school or daycare center, something like that. And my understanding that associated with the Corbin project, there had to be affordable housing component or something like that. And so this is being developed going to be 2 buildings, and I believe it might be special needs. So, who's speaking? Bob? So, the building department held up their building permit. Went to the building department, found out what the issue was, went to their engineer. Their engineer's calculations are in here. Time Bond, Eric Lindquist did the calculations to show that East Lane has capacity, and so does the 6-inch lateral that they're proposing. Of particular interest with this application is that the property was on septic. There's a lateral provided to this property. I've already marked that out. However, it's going to be a change in use, and it's going to be where no connection existed before. So thus, the calculations, there's an aerial photograph there to show you where it is. And the last page, 3 of 3 of item 7, is proposed layout of the site with the 2 buildings. So we are looking for approval for them to connect. And also, in addition to that, since there's 2 buildings, we asked the question, I'm not sure if this is necessary, but we asked the question whether or not there should be a drainage agreement. An argument for not having a sewer drainage agreement is the fact that it's still going to be one owner. So there is no worry about allocation of responsibility, as in the case of 2 separate property owners sharing a single lateral, where a dispute might arise and the sewer commission would try to not get dragged into it. As far as we know, this is still one parcel, still one owner, but nevertheless, we mentioned.
Okay. Just so the record is clear, it should be noted that Redness and Mead was hired by Planning and Zoning Town to provide a peer review of this project, but our area of focus was stormwater design, and we did not review sewer design or connection, so I don't feel any need to recuse myself. I have no interest in this development. So that's item 1. Item 2, I don't see a need, provided this stays one property and owned by one property owner. I don't see a need to have a developer's agreement or a maintenance agreement. It's the property owner's responsibility. That's my opinion. It may end up being managed by others, but that's a question between the property owner and the manager as to where responsibilities start and stop. Yeah, my recollection of this is it's 12 units of supportive housing.
Times 2.
Yeah, with up to 2 residents in each. But
No, 2 buildings with 12 people in each, isn't it?
No.
Or 12
no,
units in each?
6 units in each, 12 units total, 2 people in each of the 12 units for a total of 24 people.
Okay.
With some support staff during the
That's
day.
correct.
But we have an estimated flow of peak flow of 0.028 CFS and a capacity in the sanitary lateral of 0.813 CFS. I have done work in the area, but I'll ask staff this question. Are you aware of any capacity issues in this area?
No, we are not. But you can see that the capacity analysis only took care of the lateral and the main on East Lane. However, no, we are not aware of any capacity issues in that area or the Chasm Pond pump station. No problems there.
Okay. And the lateral that's available is at the end of East Lane in the cul-de-sac?
Yes. I haven't seen it personally, but I'm told it's extended right to the property line. There is no need for a street opening permit. They will not be working on our property. When the sewer is put in, the lateral provided for that property, contemplating that they would eventually connect.
So do we feel like this is sufficient information to act on the request? Do we require further analysis further downstream based on the information we have?
You're asking me?
I'm gonna ask my left field question that I did to Arcadis and everybody else. What are the implications of where we have known issues surging during rain events that may or may not be fully corrected after our I&I study and any remediation, and how would this site affect those events at that time? I know that's a weird question, but I've asked it a couple other times, and I don't know if there is an easy way to answer it, or this is of the scale that would trigger that inquiry.
So
Based on the-
let me say it simply. Eventually, this will get to the Stony Brook pump
Right.
station, right? And
At a certain time in the rain event,
yeah,
coinciding with a sewer flow.
and we know that that's operating at or above capacity. So, I don't know. That's to me
It's too hard a question. I understand,
yeah.
Craig, but when you look at the totality of the system, it eventually death by 1,000 cuts, we're going to be at the 999th cut. And when is that point? And maybe we're not there yet. I know when on P&Z, when we approved Garden Homes, there was a potential of the excess flows being a problem, and it was considered to have some sort of pump chamber, pump it at night or off in the morning when there was fewer users, and that didn't need to happen. And I'm not saying this is of that scale, but I think it's still something that I would contemplate. I wouldn't ask for more information, but I would be hesitant to just vote yes without asking that question. Does that
Darren,
make sense?
Darren, did you have something to add?
Reese's description of that particular development is correct, and we did get a legal opinion on that exact issue. The answer was, because we have a problem with rain, there's no reason to deny somebody the connection that we contemplated all along. The fact is there's a lateral there now to serve this property. It was put in when the sewer line was put in. The fact that they never connected and stayed on septic, I think is legally not their problem. They were provided.
Well, the lateral was proposed for a single family home.
No, when it was
Now
put
you have-
were you sure? When it was put in, it was a nursery school. So
that's a good question. Yeah, if it was, then that would make sense, Craig. If it was, yeah, that's like for like. And I do think we talked about this site. I don't think we had an action on it, but I think when it was proposed 3 or 4 years ago and first contemplated, I think we did see it as something brought up in other business or something regarding that, and it was contemplated that the existing use was a nursery school, and that may have been part of the equation.
Yeah,
I thought it was hooked up. I thought it was hooked up already.
And Ty and Bond, I did too. Ty and Bond provided, had they hooked up when it was a nursery school. I think, no, do they have that in here? What is existing average daily flow? Oh, no, that's just the average flow of the.
Because they were on, in the calculations, you will not see anything about the existing flows.
Okay.
It was on septic, right?
Well, it was on septic, yeah.
Oh, I see. This is the other two houses on the road.
New flows.
Yeah, this is the other two houses on the road.
Yes, correct.
I'd like to just say it's a unique situation that had an existing use that would have, had it hooked up, been more than a single family home as a nursery school, and it makes it for me more of a one-off. But I do want to continue that inquiry that eventually the system's full, and our aging system is not going to operate at 100% based on its pipe size, and that's what the engineers are looking at, pipe size for flows. Maybe there's a level of safety and a built-in factor.
Well, yeah, if you actually, if you take the proper way, if this was a project of a certain scale, and maybe we as the sewer commission should identify what the definition of certain scale is, right? To say above this size, you need to do a full study, below this size, you don't. And so what a full study would include is you would put, just like we did with Arcadis, you'd put flow monitoring in the downstream receiving system. You would leave it in place for a month or so until you captured a decent rainfall event. so that you would know not just the capacity of the sewer based on domestic sewage flow, you would know the capacity of sewer, including inflow and infiltration from real data acquired from a flow test, from a flow meter.
I think also, Craig, it's where it is in the sewer shed too that matters. Just like the watershed when you're doing mitigation for rain events.
You know,
It matters when it's getting to Stony Brook in a rain event, likely rain event. I mean, maybe a model storm. I don't know what you use, but it's similar to the hydraulic models in my mind. That where it is. If it's right next to the pump station, extra capacity is probably there. You're right there. Further down the line through the sewer shed is more of an issue in my mind. And maybe I'm getting too theoretical. I don't know.
yeah, well, I mean, your question is a big question, right? Because your question potentially ends at an answer that says the sewer commission is going to allow no more connections in X sewer shed based on the capacity of the system, period.
I'm not saying it's a moratorium, but I'm saying something as time goes by and development increases and we have an existing age system, it has to be something we consider. It's more complicated than an engineering model. It does involve all the things that we know and where we have issues and where they can be improved and where there's extra and what the time interval it is to actually be a problem for known areas. I mean, it's horrible. We saw people on Renshaw Road that had sewage in their yard, and that's related to everything. Do we cure it with the I&I? We probably get pretty close, but then development goes 2x 50 years from now. I mean, at what point is there a threshold question?
Well, look,
and I think it's worth asking every time a single family home goes to a multifamily.
Yeah, and as we have this conversation over time, we may start coalescing around an answer or a set of guidelines that we might use. So I agree. Asking the question is the right thing to do. I think at the very least we ought to set a threshold for when we would require a developer to do a more thorough analysis versus when we won't, right? I think
applications years ago weren't all public hearings, but there was a threshold, and you kind of knew it when you saw it. And years ago, it was more discretionary. That whether something reached the status of a public hearing, the need for a public hearing, similar thing.
I'll point out I was the engineer for the assisted living facility across the street here, and there was an existing connection in the property because there was an existing office building, and we turned a 30,000 square foot office building into a 100,000 square foot assisted living facility. And, we inquired knowledgeable staff as to the condition of the systems and pump stations downstream, and there were no known issues, and the connection was allowed based on the lateral size being sufficient.
Yep.
That's a big project. I mean, that's probably one that in retrospect, we might say you need to do a little bit more digging just to confirm.
And again, if it's something that as we find more out from Arcadis about our existing system, if we start to get the health reports back, it might be something that we feed into and think about it a little more clearly. And again, to me, it's about location. Location matters in the system. That's the only reason I bring it up. This didn't trip my meter because of the scale. I want to be consistent. It's something that's bothered me for a long time. And that's all.
So do we need to decide that in some future agenda we talk about this more? Are you fine with it now? Should we talk about the threshold question during a future agenda?
No, I'm fine with this now, Craig, because because of the existing use before, and the right to hook up, and based on the capacity of the system put in when it was a nursery school. I love that idea. That fits well with. But every large scale change, I'm going to, kind of like Bob has certain things that trip his meter. This is one that's been on mine since I joined the commission.
Darren, you got something?
I was just going to add that in this particular case, the location is very important. Obviously, the closer you are to the point, the more your peaking factor matters, right?
Mhm.
In this particular case, this goes to Chasmer Pond Pump Station. Chasmer Pond Pump Station goes to 5 Mile River Pump Station. 5 Mile River Pump Station goes 4,000 something feet before it hits gravity and goes on its way to Stony Brook. So whatever you do on East Lane, I think the runtime on the pumps are going to be hard to measure. And
really, at the end of the day, the peak rate of the pump
it's the same.
is the same.
It's just, it's going to
You're
run for a
effectively
second
not
longer.
changing the peak getting to Stony Brook.
Right. And then when it goes to 5 Mile River, the same thing. The pump goes on.
Yeah.
You have a peak. You have a peak flow, right? And then when it gets to Stony Brook, it's going to go through gravity first. That was one point. And the second point is I wanted to make the commission aware that Kate Perez is on the line for Baywater. If you had any questions for her about the use of the.
Thank you. Well, Reese, were you circling yourself back around to a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept this based on its former use and that it was contemplated as more than a single family home when the sewer system was installed with the lateral.
I have a second. Any further discussion or questions on the motion?
Not on the motion, but if I could have just 1 second after to speak to Reese's point, which isn't really a factor in this application, but
All right, let's not kill the suspense here. Can I get a vote on the motion? All those in favor,
Sorry.
raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. The connection is approved. Bob, follow up.
Just a quick one. If I don't remember if it was 2 months ago or 3 months ago or if it was last month, we had that sheet in there that was talking about the Desegregate Connecticut platform.
Mhm.
And part of that was, if I remember correctly, all talked about the alternative of on-site sanitary systems.
Mhm.
So speaking about our level, we should do something sooner rather than later. We should be preemptive rather than reactionary. So I would say in the next meeting or two, we need to decide what our level is, that those studies need to be done.
Well, I feel, well, yeah, okay. So maybe for the February agenda, perhaps staff could consider a recommendation for when downstream flow monitoring would be required as a part of a permit request.
I mean, I'd also like to think about letting Arcadis do a little more work and see what they come back with.
We're going to get a lot of good information over the next week.
They're intertwined. If we get a clean bill of health on so much, then we have areas we don't need to worry about as much once we get that back. That's all. So this isn't a time sensitive thing, but yeah.
There is a time. Okay. Well, the other caution I'll add to the conversation is that, again, in our next item, we're about to consider connection fees, right? And if you are doing a larger project that would require a 4-inch or 6-inch domestic water service, your connection fee could be substantial. So you may get a counter argument from developers that say, well, I'm going to pay an $80,000 or $160,000 connection fee. It's not my problem that you have an 80-year-old system. That's what the connection fee is for. Go invest.
No, there's no linkage, Craig. It's not for future. It's for current. You can't. We could have that theoretical discussion with any developer we wanted in the future. Take any stance we want. They're not necessarily linked.
All right. So we're going to move on from item number 7. That being decided. I'm just watching the clock here. It's 5:17. So item number 8, maybe Darren, I'll give a little preview since I was a part of the conversation yesterday. Is that reasonable? So you have an email from Darren that includes the latest draft of sewer connection fee language. And there were a couple notable edits. It was good to have a third party, our town attorney, review because having someone not involved in the conversation trying to understand plainly from the text what we were saying was helpful. So we made one separation that is something a little bit different than you've seen on previous drafts. And that is we kind of separated this table 9 into table 9A and table 9B. And basically we said, if you've got a single family residence like the one we saw earlier tonight, or you've got a townhouse that has its own water service connection as they do with townhouses, that you effectively pay a flat fee. 3 bedrooms and above, you pay $1,000. 2 bedrooms and below, you pay $500. And then everybody else, multifamily building that might just be residential, non-residential, commercial, mixed use, everybody else will be judged by their water service size as a helpful proxy to determine potential sewer flow. So that was the edit we made there, and that made it easier for us. So we didn't have to describe what do you do when you've got 60 residential units and 30,000 square feet of commercial, and the tap size is this, but if you add up the apartment sizes, it's that. And we didn't even have to get into that discussion. And in my estimation, I believe that the fees that we would collect for the water service size would effectively always exceed the value of added apartments. So we'd have to put a lot of language in to cover something that we covered differently with less language. So that's the primary change. What we want to make sure of is that it's clear that the concept is that if you have a property and you have an existing water service connection that's a 2-inch, and you're knocking that building down, or you're adding another building on the property, and now you need a 4-inch water service connection, that your connection fee is basically the difference between the two. So in this case, the difference between 21,000 and 79,000, because you already kind of have rights to your 2-inch water service connection. And if there's multiple existing and multiple proposed, you do the same thing. Add up any existing being abandoned, add up any proposed, and take the difference. So we want to make sure this language says that, which I believe matches our prior discussions. And we want to make sure that when that happens, it never goes negative where we're issuing a credit, like someone removes a 4-inch and puts in a 2-inch and wants money back. That's not going to happen. So that's the language. So those are the things that we identified as important. I do have a couple of words to put in here. We can do that now, or we can individually take some time to review this and get our edits into Darren over the next couple of weeks, and really give this full consideration at the next meeting. See Bob agreeing with that line of thought.
Yep, I agree.
Agree.
Darren, okay, Darren.
Yeah, let us read it and let it sit in and have our thoughts.
The commission just got the most recent revisions today. Back in December, we were shooting for reviewing it in January and holding a public hearing in February. I think we should, or I would recommend or suggest for your consideration March or after that, to give everybody a chance to look at what we just gave them.
All right, great. So edits are welcome, and we'll talk about this more fully in February unless anybody has any further questions or comments.
Craig, do you need a motion for that?
Sure.
All right, make a motion that we review this over the next month, and then we hold a public hearing in March.
So let's vote to whether or not we're going to hold a public hearing next meeting. For now, just table it till February.
Okay. Yeah, table till February. Great.
Yeah. All right. Reese first, Peter second. All those in favor, aye, is
Aye.
unanimous.
Aye.
Ed, before you start the superintendent's report, I am aware by email that we have a legal deadline that's coming up before our next meeting. And I'm wondering, you're on mute, Ed, by the way, if we want to create new business tonight to discuss it, or if we want to schedule a special meeting before. Let me see if I can find the date.
February 2nd.
That's our next meeting. But if
What's the legal?
I saw a summary from Jane Warren,
Yeah.
the Word document, and she notes a deadline in there. The second row, deadline of January 28th, 2021.
For payment to save the sound?
Correct.
Okay,
So we can go into new business tonight and discuss and decide authorization of that payment, or do you feel like we need to do that as a sewer commission or not?
well, we're all here right now, and let's go into new business. Let's do it. You guys approve it, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, can I have a vote to go into new business?
My only thing is, Craig, you're by far the most knowledgeable commissioner, and you're out of here in 6 minutes.
Let's see what happens.
Okay. All right.
So do I have a motion to go into new business? Susan said yes. Second.
Yep.
Bob second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. In new business to discuss our agreement with Save the Sound and really two payments that are prescribed by it. The agreement is effective as of December 29th, 2020. And there are two required payments. One was given a deadline, one wasn't given a deadline. The first required payment is payment of $25,000 to Save the Sound due by January 28th for engineering and legal reimbursement. The second is an environmental benefit payment that would go to the Darien Land Trust for the same amount. As we are discussing it, and this is a matter of a long negotiated legal agreement that is now signed by both sides and finalized by the courts. There's really no discretion that we have to not do these things, but thought it did require action by the Sewer Commission to approve the payments, and Ed can move forward with it.
I'd make a motion that we ought to make the payments.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote to approve these two payments as described.
Aye.
Right. Reese, you a yes?
Yes.
Okay, that was 5-0, and I don't know if the minutes are going to record Bob's facial expression, but maybe you can do that.
All right.
I'd like to make note that I had a facial expression just like Bob's.
And I'd like to express the gratitude for all the work you guys put in getting.
Oh, amen. Amen.
Yeah, I think
We
I
gotta-
don't know. It's a little. It was a lot of work to get to this point, and Ed's got a lot of work to do from here on. So.
Yep.
That's the facial expression.
Yeah, well, at least we can focus on the engineering now, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So now I will let you go ahead, Peter.
Don't we have to move now to get out of new business?
Oh, do you actually? Okay, sure. Let's do it. Peter first, out of new business.
Second.
I'll second.
Reese seconds, out of new business. All those in favor, includes everybody, 5-0. We are back to item number 9, the superintendent's report.
All right. I'll see if I can cover these as quickly as I can, but Seagate Pump Station, Eversource was out there today working on the site. We're looking for them to install the meter. That was as of this morning. I haven't heard anything, and Darren, shake your head if you've heard something different. Obviously he has.
They were out there. They pulled the wires to the new connection. They did not transfer over the power. Everything is as it was. They didn't connect to the new transformer. So we're still running on the power from Seagate Road. It's going to change over soon though.
Right. And then the other piece is the new pumps are already in. They're running off the new control systems, so and the new transfer switches in. So what we're waiting on now is Eversource, and we can wrap up that end. We do have 2 repairs to do inside the pump pit with the elbows. We're just waiting on parts for that, but we're pretty close to wrapping this up. Hopefully by the next meeting we'll have it completed.
Sounds good.
The I&I study, I put an attachment in here from the DEEP.
Oh,
Well, you folks get an update on where we stand with them. It looks like we've gotten our approval of the I&I study
oh, that's great.
to move forward. So what happens next is we're going to start doing the SSES. We did have some questions on what they approved, whether it was the scope of work or was it the I&I analysis and the funds to go with the additional scope. So we wrote them an email that went out last week back to them saying just, clarify what we have gotten approval for so that we go and spend money on something that they have not approved and will not reimburse us. So we'll get some clarification on that. And the other piece was what comes up next is we got some work to do on the CMON plan. We're going to jump back on that soon, within the next week or two. Pump station inspection report is due to us within the next week or two also. And then we're going to start scheduling the work for the SSES, the smoke testing, the camera work, the flow, a little bit more flow analysis, so that we can start identifying where our problems actually are within those sections that we identified as high-risk areas or high levels of I&I. Any questions on that one?
No.
I'll have
No.
more for you next month, I promise.
Yeah, we're ahead.
Hopefully good news.
We're ahead of study. The I analysis isn't due until January 28th, June 28th. June 28th.
I like that. We're good with that.
Mm.
And finally, the DOT connection. We did have it dye tested beginning of December and found that none of the dye showed up in the sanitary sewer. So it appears that the roof drains are not connected to the sanitary sewer or the oil water separators over there, which is a relief.
Okay.
And that's just 2 more things so I can have, but the Save the Sound timelines, Craig, you covered that. I think we should send that out to the commission if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, the budget for 21-22. I just had my budget meeting today with Kate, Jennifer, and Jamie, and I will send that out to you folks, and we'll talk about it next month at our next meeting.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Any questions for the superintendent?
You're going to make it, Craig.
All right, everybody needs a deadline.
No, nothing else? All right, adjournment.
All
I make a
right,
motion.
Peter would like to adjourn.
Second.
Reese would like to adjourn as well. All those in favor?
Aye.
You can stop recording the meeting, Mr. Ostbein.
Okay.